Welcome to my Freedom from Suffering Now How-To series. This is the first. I've just decided, after talking with my coach, that I would start presenting some how-to videos. Just pure information, just to let you know things about different topics I'm passionate about and excited about. And the first one I want to start with today is how to make peace with your pain. You know, that sounds like a weird topic for a lot of people. When I meet with a lot of my patients, I tell them, the first step towards freedom from suffering is to stop fighting your pain and making peace with your pain. A lot of times when I tell people this, they get really upset with me. I mean, you can imagine some of the things that might get said. It's not very fun sometimes, but it's absolutely true. I know for me and my personal journey of pain management, I had to get to the point where I could make peace with my pain in order to stop suffering. You know, pain's inevitable when you live with chronic pain. Some people think pain can be cured, and I think sometimes that's true, and at other times I'm not sure. What's really hard, I get a lot of people who came in and they've been to the last 4 or 5 healthcare providers who said, there's nothing we can do for you, you've got to learn to live with it. Unfortunately, they never told these people how to do that. So that's part of how-to, is how to make peace with your pain so you can stop suffering. The first step is to learn as much about pain as possible. And, the reason we have pain receptors built in is to warn us when something is wrong. It's like a sensor. If you think of a nuclear power plant. I used to be a construction electrician, and in power plants there's the control center, and in the control center there's all these panels of windows that list different parts of the plant, especially the high critical areas. And in these panels, if something goes wrong out there in the field, one of the cooling systems doesn't work, something's not getting power like it should, all of a sudden a signal gets sent back to the control center, and on this panel a bright strobe light starts clicking on that window, and then an audio alarm gets triggered too, especially for some of the more serious vital areas. We have a control panel up here. It's called the thalamus. So when we have a pain signal that goes, let's say I just smashed my thumb in a car door. That signal gets sent up here, and man, I just want to stop that thumb from hurting. Or if you hit your hand with a hammer, the hammer goes one way and the thumb, so it's automatic. So that signal goes up here and it tells us what the pain's like, and it starts mobilizing us. How strong is it? What type of pain is it? And we have a thinking response about it. And then a signal gets sent to our amygdala limbic part of the brain, and we have an emotional response. With acute pain, that's a good idea. You put your hand down on a hot burner, a hot surface. If you didn't have receptors and you did that, you wouldn't know you were cooking your hand until you smelled it. But with the receptors, you get that signal and you pull your hand away. So pain is our friend. It's telling us something's going on. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to chronic pain, sometimes it's not serving us well anymore. This is oversimplifying, but sometimes the pain system gets turned on and it just doesn't get turned off. And the other thing that happens with repetitive signals going on, it remodels the pain system, the pain circuit. It's like, all of a sudden now the system norm is to have pain. And so the pain signals get turned on, they don't get turned off. And the other thing that happens is that constant input of pain changes our thinking and emotional responses. And that becomes what I call the amplifier circuit. So the very, very first step of making peace with pain is learning how much of our pain is actually that physiological signal that's going up to the thalamus, and how much of it is that psychological, emotional descending signal that goes from the thalamus to other parts of the brain and back to the body. That's one of the very, very first things I do with people when I work with them. Help them see how much of their pain is physiological and how much psychological, emotional. Now, when we go through there, I explain to them, these are all the physical symptoms. This is pain. What those signals do in your brain is these over here, and I call this suffering, or the amplifier circuit. The medication is meant for these physical symptoms. Many of the people I work with get to me because they've had problems with their medication management. And so a lot of them were taking their meds for that psychological, emotional piece of the pain. I can remember being there before I got in recovery, and that's like having this bad infection and you look at it, oh, I don't want to look at this. I just covered up with this great looking Band-Aid. Haven't cleaned it, haven't medicated, haven't taken any action. I just hid it. Well, that's what the pain meds do for those psychological, emotional symptoms. The other cool thing about this, though, is when I teach people some really simple ways to change their thinking and manage their feelings, it's like now they can turn the amplifier down. So as these symptoms come down, something magical happens. These symptoms over here are lessened, or at least the perception is lessened. And that's the same thing. So again, the very first step towards making peace with pain is to fully understand how much of your pain is physical and how much of it's psychological, emotional, and more importantly, what do you do about it? And I always start with the psychological, emotional, and see if we can get some really good interventions going over here. And 9 times out of 10, the person doesn't have to change anything about their medication except maybe decrease the amount of medication they're taking, which is a good thing, because medications can be an okay thing to have, but unfortunately a lot of times they have side effects. There's a lot of different physical side effects, especially for the opiates. And I'm not just talking about addiction here, trust me. I'm also talking about things like constipation or cognitive messing up here, having problems thinking, managing feelings. Opiates will do that. Opiates also over time will develop a condition called opioid-induced hyperalgesic effect. So a lot of times the meds people are taking are causing the pain that they're feeling. So for some people, making peace with pain is transitioning off the opiates and getting their system reset. There's a lot of different things. I like to meet people where they're at because no two people are going to have identical things. Everybody's different. Even if it's similar injuries or similar conditions, every individual brings their history into it. Like me, I brought my history into my injury that ended up getting me into this field of helping other people. But the big thing is, freedom from suffering is definitely possible, but people need to be active participants. And one of the very first steps is to stop the war with the self, the war with the pain. Stop fighting the pain, make peace with it, call a truce, and learn as much about pain as you can. And then you don't have to suffer anymore, I promise. It takes work, and it's very doable. So thank you for being here for my first how-to video. I'm going to be doing these periodically, and I'm really open to feedback. And please let me know what other topics you would like me to cover. I like to hear from my viewers. I like to have people give me some feedback. What would you like to hear more about or less about? And how can I serve you? Make sure to check out my Freedom from Suffering Now site frequently, especially the blog pages, because that changes frequently. And also, you can register for these how-to videos on my blog site. So most of my blogs will have a lot of text with them. These how-to videos, this is it. It's just the text is missing. It's coming out of my mouth. you know, if I can't have fun doing this, why bother? So thank you for allowing me to be here and be a little playful today. It's a playful, rainy Sunday afternoon. Me and Dog are here at the office having a good time. And I'm really loving life and big things coming. And please stay tuned for the next how-to video. Thank you very much.